In the early 90s, Japanese sports cars started to take the world on by storm. One car in particular, though, really stood out. Introduced back in 1989, the Nissan Skyline R33 was an instant hit and started the modern era for all Skylines to follow. With its 2.6-liter inline-six twin-turbo engine, Godzilla, the Skyline name wreaked havoc amongst the competition. 1993, we saw the introduction of the next Skyline, the R33, and then again in 1998, we had the R34. These are some of the greatest cars of all time. And when Paul Walker raced his R34 through the streets of Miami, every man, child, and Toyota dealer wanted one of these. What's up everyone, welcome back to another Ross review. Today I brought you a 1994 Nissan Skyline R33 GTST. Now the biggest difference between a GTST and the infamous GTR is that the GTST has a single turbo rather than the GTR having a twin turbo engine. And also to mention, the GTST is a straight rear wheel drive car. So if you're into drifting, this is the car you get. Under the hood in this car, we've got an RB25 DET. It's a 2.5 liter inline six turbo engine. From the factory, this thing had 280 horsepower and 235 pound-foot of torque. And it was all ran through a 5-speed manual gearbox. Now I'm just going to clarify for anyone who's been living under a rock for the past 30 years that the GTR's engine is an RB26. So it's a 2.6 liter straight six twin turbo engine. The GTST is an RB25, so it has a 2.5 liter straight six single turbo engine. Now this particular car's engine has had some pretty decent work done to it because this is spec'd out to become a drift car. The motor is fully forged and has HKS internals and cams. The turbo has been upgraded to a Garrett GT 3082, full HKS 3.5-inch exhaust, and the list just keeps going and going. The motor now on 20 pounds of boost is pushing near 450 horsepower. Just a few other mods to quickly mention. We have a Nismo twin plate clutch installed, HKS coilovers all around, and a GTR body kit fitted. Just another thing to mention about the R33, and it actually goes for all Skyline generations, R32, R33, R34. They were all offered in a series of different body styles. You could actually get these in a four-door sedan, which is kind of crazy, but you could. You gotta love the coupe design here though. This thing just looks so, it's just got such an iconic shape to it. The body lines in this car are just so beautiful. Now just in the back of the R33, I just want to come back to the taillights. These are some of the most iconic taillights in the entire car industry, and I love how Nissan's carried the same 4 circular brake lights through their whole lineup of Skyline. Even to this day, the R35 still has these iconic circular taillights, and they're one of the coolest rear lights in the entire car industry. Alright, so driving the 1994 Nissan Skyline R33 GTST. Alright man, this thing is just a race car for the road, like proper drift setup, like no aircon, it's hot in here, we're sweating, but you wouldn't have it any other way. This car is just so, you just feel so connected to it, like the experience of it is hard to explain until you actually get in it and drive this thing. Oh man. Man. Mate, that doesn't get old, that feeling. So one thing to mention, like, the steering is quite stiff in this car. I'm not sure if that's to do with this particular car or if it's with all R33s here, but the clutch is a little bit stiff as well. You gotta watch when you release it, but it just takes a little bit getting used to. So the gearbox feels pretty good as well. It's a 5-speed. The throws aren't too bad. I thought the throws would feel a bit longer. They're not terrible, actually. Slots in nicely. It's just the whole experience with this car. It's screaming at you. It's loud. You know, things start to rattle when you get up there, and it's just an immense experience. I love the wheel in this as well. It's a OMP racing wheel, and man, it really adds to the feel of driving a race car or, you know, a drift spec car. You got this cool line right in the center, so you know where you are at all times, and it's all wrapped in Alcantara, and just feels really nice. It's quite small as well, so you really get that sense of a race car here. Yeah, this car is not a car that wants to be driven slowly and through traffic and that. This is a car that wants to go on a big slab of road and just foot to the floor. Yeah, the GTST, you know, a lot of people think, you know, it's garbage compared to the GTR and this and that. You know, it's not a twin turbo, it's this and that, but man, it does not take much at all to get these engines to put out big numbers. And in the drift world, you know, these are king over the GTR anyways. If you get in one of these and you have a go at it, you will be surprised. Like, these things are no slouch. To me, the guys that really are JDM fanboys and the guys that are really going to use the car to its full potential, you're not going to get a GTR. You're going to get a GTST because there's just so many more of these available. And the price difference is just is a huge price difference. You can actually use this whole car and not be afraid of, you know, blowing things out or having to swap out things, because you can get parts for these relatively with ease, where you know, a GTR is really going to hurt your back pocket. This car actually, you know, driving it actually does remind me a little bit of that Zafiro that I drove before. So that's the 1994 Nissan Skyline R33 GTST. This car is a complete animal. Like, words cannot describe the feeling of this car when you go for a drive, of how immersive it is and just sheer angry the car feels. This really proves the point to all the people that say the GTST is not worth buying, because it really is. This car is way cheaper than the GTR. It's way more common to find than the GTR, and you're able to get parts for it and everything a lot cheaper and more easily. If you're the kind of guy who wants to do up the car and possibly go drifting, or, you know, even just use it a lot rather than having it stored in your garage, I would highly recommend getting a GTST instead. Just want to do a big shout out to Skyline Society WA and Rural Car Scenes here for putting on a lot of the meets here around Perth and keeping the Japanese sport car culture going around here. So big shout out to you guys, and keep doing what you're doing.